I'm Paul Gilliam, Supervisor, and welcome to Community Conversations. The reason why we did this, so we started at the beginning of the year, made a lot of systemic changes within the township in the first year in 2025, and now it's about making sure that we interact. The focus of these are to bring the people from the service-oriented departments out to the public, interacting with people directly, talking about what it is that they do, as well as how it impacts, I think, the quality of life within our community, and of course, to answer questions. So without any further delay,
Sure.
Gentlemen,
Sure.
Floor is yours.
Awesome. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for coming and attending. My name is Preston Susalla. I have the privilege of being the Chief of Police here at the Clinton Township Police Department. A little bit about me. I've been with the police department for about 24 years now. I've had the pleasure of working in numerous capacities within the police department. A lot of those capacities we're going to talk about and go through as resources and special units and things that we have within the police department. And I think an important thing to note when we go through and we're talking about the different resources that we have, a lot of the different units that we have, those are not full-time units. Those are typically part-time units or units that officers put in for to do extra things. So technically we have, for the most part, if you can visualize, we have a road patrol, which is your typical, what you think about a police officer. They're in full uniform, they drive the police cars, they're the ones enforcing traffic laws, going to calls for service and emergencies and that type of a thing. And then we also have detectives, which, in a suit, they go to court, they put the cases together, they do the investigations, those types of things. So those are really the two main cores of the police department. And then everything else, as far as evidence technicians go, SWAT teams, crisis negotiators, bike patrol people, those are all extra things that the officers do. So that's not their full-time job. It's just extra stuff. So we really rely on our people to wear multiple hats and do multiple things. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to provide the resources that we provide to the citizens of Clinton Township. To start off, we are an accredited agency. That is an extremely important and proud thing that we like to talk about and display. I will defer to Captain Capola, he's our accreditation manager for our department. But what accreditation is, there's a number of different standards that we have to show and prove, really to the state of Michigan, who does an annual audit, to show that, hey, we are operating under current best practices as far as our policies and procedures and the way we do things go. So there are roughly 130 standards that we have to prove, but they all have substandards. At the end of the day, it's about 600-ish items that we have to show and prove. And by proving that, we can show whether it's something from a police report that we show, a video, a picture. We have to upload all that into a system, and then the state can look through. They come to the police department over a 2-day span. They go through everything to make sure that we are in compliance. And that's how we get that sticker of approval that we are an accredited agency. Our mission statement. Charter Township of Clinton Police Department is committed to the values of integrity and fairness in our interactions with our citizens and department members. We are dedicated to protecting and serving our community and enhancing the quality of life. We will enforce the laws of the land while remaining ever mindful of the rights of others. That is our mission statement that we go by. And just a quick little statistic, on average, our department responds to nearly 50,000 calls for service every year. Our department organizational chart, just to kind of give you an idea of what our organization looks like. As I mentioned, over on this side here is our detective bureau. So we have a captain that oversees investigations, and investigations covers our detective bureau and also our special investigations unit. And by special investigations, that's our undercover unit. So the people that deal with if there's a drug complaint or they're going undercover and they're making buys, or if there's a complaint about illegal gambling, they're going in there in another undercover capacity to do their investigation, to build a case, to get search warrants and arrest warrants, and to bring those cases to court. It's a very long process. So everybody, that's one thing I think that people don't realize is the amount of time and effort and reports and documentation that it takes, because we're doing all these things essentially to take it to court, to take it in front of a jury, and to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the law was broken. On the other side is operations. We have an operations division, and as I mentioned before, that is your typical road patrol officer, full uniform, in a patrol car, responding to calls for service. There's a captain of operations who oversees that whole operation. And then we have administration, which Captain Coppola is in charge of, and that is our support services division, which includes our records division, everything that happens within our building, the infrastructure, our vehicle fleet, custodians, pretty much all of our civilian staff as well. Detectives, so our detective bureau, just to kind of explain how the process works, and I'll give an example here. Somebody's car gets broken into. Their window's busted, maybe the suspect cut his hand on the window, and there's things missing from the vehicle. They call the police. So we send a patrol car out there. The officer talks to the person, says, hey, what happened? Give me the time of day that this happened. What do you think is missing? Did you go through the vehicle at all? Because that could tamper with any evidence that's in there. So the officers ask all the questions to start the initial case report. They would then call an evidence technician out to the scene. We have separate evidence technicians that are trained in gathering evidence, preserving evidence, and those types of things. Evidence technician would come out. They would do the evidence gathering and processing. So they would swab the blood for DNA, and they would package that up. They would go through the vehicle, take evidence, latent prints, anything that they could find or see that could have evidentiary value. That's the evidence tech's responsibility. So the original officer writes the original report. The evidence technician writes a supplemental report to what they did. And then that all gets sent to a supervisor. Their supervisor reads everything, makes sure that they did everything appropriately as needed, and then they approve it. Then that goes to the detective bureau. A detective gets assigned the case. Now it's the detective's job to continue that investigation. So the detective makes sure that the blood gets sent to the Michigan State Police Crime Lab, that the latent prints get sent to the crime lab. Maybe there's a phone call, or maybe there's some ring camera footage of this. So it's the detective's job to ask around, if the officer didn't do it, ask around, do more investigation to try to get as much evidence as possible. If they're able to identify a suspect, then it's that detective's responsibility to talk to the prosecutor, get those arrest warrants signed. If there's search warrants involved, get the search warrants together, and then see that case through the court process. So that's what the detective does. And that's kind of like a full circle of how a larceny from auto or something would happen. We have a pretty decent-sized bike patrol unit, which me and Captain Coppola have both been members of and in charge of. And obviously, it's a fair weather type unit. We don't really use them in the wintertime, unfortunately, just because it's too cold. But when it's nice out, they're a very valuable tool for a number of different reasons. Obviously, they can go to places, they can get into the parks, they can get where vehicles can't. Also, they just seem to be more approachable. They can, get into those parks, like I mentioned, get closer to people, talk to the kids. They always have a bunch of Slurpee coupons and different types of things to hand out. So there's a huge public relations component to the bike patrol that is also beneficial. We utilize them heavily for the fireworks, our fireworks details, Gratiot Crews, and those types of things. Special response team. I guess the best way to describe it would be a SWAT team. So they are highly trained, highly specialized, specializing in different tactics, weapons, room clearings, house entries, those types of things. They're the group of people when we have a highly dangerous person that we need to take into custody, we will utilize them because they are the ones that are trained to do that. Anytime we had a homicide investigation where we had to take custody of a homicide suspect, we would utilize the special response team for that. Evidence technicians, we kind of talked a little bit about that, what they do. They have the specialized training. They're the ones that are out there collecting evidence. A lot of times, evidence is pictures. So if we have a domestic violence situation or somebody was assaulted or there's damage to something, a lot of time that evidence is pictures. So they're out there taking a lot of pictures. They get special training for that. On top of, if you watch CSI and everything from DNA to fingerprints, we have an evidence technician lab in our department that they can utilize different types of chemicals and things depending upon what maybe a fingerprint might be on to be able to get that evidence. And then they can pull that and then that gets sent to a lab. We don't have a lab in our department. Everything that we send out is typically sent to Michigan State Police. This is our beloved drone unit. Julie? Actually, they do a fantastic job. We have one of our patrol vehicles equipped in the back it's special and it's utilized for drones. So it holds a couple drones. That way they're not banging around. It can charge while it's in there, and that way it is deployable right on the spot. We've had a couple instances as of late that I'm just trying to remember as, so many things happen. One was a stolen vehicle. That was 15 in Harper. It ended up crashed over by 15 in Beaconsfield. 2 people got out and ran. We were able to pop that drone up, take them both into custody in a short amount of time because of the drone. We also had an autistic boy that was missing. Parents called. It was in a big apartment complex. They found his shoes by a pond, and that was concerning. They were able to pop that drone up and find him several hundred yards away in like an industrial type fenced-in area. Somehow he hopped over the fence, but utilizing that drone, they were able to find him. Also, the drones have the capability of infrared technology. So at night, you can see body heat, so we can use that as well if we're searching for a missing person or a suspect. Special Investigations Unit. As I mentioned, those are our undercover people. So when you watch, cops or any type of a law enforcement type show, these are the guys that they don't have the same grooming standards that the road patrol people have, and that's being polite. They look grimy. They got long hair. I mean, you wouldn't think they're police officers, put it that way. And they're the ones that they're very proactive in our community. They're the ones that, like I said, if there's a drug complaint, they're going in there. They have confidential informants, or they're going in there and making those investigations themselves, those buys, those types of things. They also work in conjunction with our detective bureau. If there's a certain suspect that we're looking for, they do a lot of surveillance. So they're sitting in a car, watching, where somebody's going, those types of things. They put trackers on suspects' cars so they can track where they're going and those types of things. There's a lot of resources that our special investigations can use, which makes our community safer and makes us way more effective and efficient as far as being able to bring some of these people to justice and be proactive. Honor Guard unit. If you can see down here, the special uniforms that they wear, they're a ceremonial type uniform. Interesting fact is that our Clinton Township Police Department Honor Guard is the longest serving Honor Guard unit in Macomb County. They are highly regarded. They go to Washington every year for the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial, and they always play a role in that because of how good they are, essentially. Every year in April, think it's April, the spaghetti dinner. And that benefits our honor guard. It allows them to do that Washington trip. And they volunteer a lot of their time to go to these funerals, go to these ceremonies. As an example, I don't know if you heard about the firefighter from Clinton Township. She passed away tragically battling a fire out of state. And our police honor guard went to that funeral to represent the department, on her behalf. So that is what they do. That's the main focus of that particular unit. Training units. So in a police department, training is really utmost importance. I'm a huge advocate for training. We are in a highly dangerous, very dangerous, high liability type profession, and training is what keeps everybody safe. It makes us better. We have, because we're an accredited agency, we have mandated training to be accredited. We have mandated training through the state that we have to do. We do training at least once a month at the police department because training is so important. On top of that, officers are encouraged to do advanced training outside of the police department. So Macomb Community College, Oakland Community College, they have police academies where they offer numerous types of advanced police training, and officers take advantage of that, and they're encouraged to do so. Makes them better, makes us better, makes the community safer, so it's encouraged to continue that professional development, and that's very, very important. School resource officers, we kind of hit on that a little bit. These are our school resource officers. We have officers in Chippewa Valley schools and at Clintondale. They do a great job. It is such a good resource having those officers in the schools. If you think about how many students are in a school, it's almost like a small city. And so many things can happen within the schools. When an officer is in the school, he gets to know the students there, builds those relationships, and because you're building those relationships, a lot of times the school resource officer can get information to really be proactive and make sure that things don't happen. Or if something does happen, he might have some insight already because of the relationships that he builds within that school. They work in conjunction with our detective bureau. They have a cubicle in the detective bureau at the police station, but then they also have an office where they're at the school majority of the time. We also have a community relations team in the police department. Their primary goal is to get out there in the community, interact with people, pass out stuff, answer questions, really bridge that gap between the police department and the community. Be that face, be that person. They go to many different events. And that's their primary goal. People will call and ask for certain things. Hey, they're having this event. Can a police officer be there? We do the best we can to fulfill those requests. And just a side note to that, all of these extra groups, units, just for example, the public relations team, these are all officers that work a regular shift. So anything that they're doing is outside of the regular shift. That equals overtime. And I have a budget that I have to be wary of. So I have to keep track of all that. And that's why we can't always make every single request fulfilled from a public relations perspective. We would like to, but we also have a budget that we have to keep into account. And our number one goal is to really man the road with police officers so that they can respond to emergencies when those emergency calls come in. Because like I said, 50,000 calls a year, one bad accident could take up several police officers for a number of hours. And two, our minimum manpower police officers on the road is 9 officers. And that's for 100,000 plus people, 28 square miles. Some of our community outreach services that we talked about a little bit. If you go, you can call us. You can call our front desk. Let's say you're going out of town. Also on our website, there's a link that you can go and you can type in your address. We have some people that they go out of town for months at a time during the winter time, and it's so often, and the officers know the address by memory. They don't even have to look at it. They know. So if you're going out of town, you want the police department to know so that officers that are working that area can make extra checks, make sure your house is secure, those types of things. You can let us know. We have a briefing every morning and every evening before the police officers go out on the road. All that stuff is read off. So if they're working in a certain area, they write everything down, and then they go out and they're patrolling those areas, and they're making sure that they're checking those addresses. We do Shop with a Cop every year. That's more of a public relation type function, and we've been partnering with Walmart the last few years, and we go out and kids that don't have the means to, families that don't have the means to get kids presents. We partner with them and we take them shopping and we make sure that they have a nice Christmas. We do have a social worker in-house. A lot of times we deal with whether it's mental health or a hoarding issue or if domestic violence, or there's so many different issues. As police officers, we deal with more criminal type matters, but there are a lot of people in need and need resources that we might not either be aware of or we might not have the time to sit down and provide those. So those types of cases, they get referred to our social worker. She can then reach out and make sure that those people are getting the resources, or at least are aware of the resources that are out there. Hope Not Handcuffs is also something that we have at our police department with people that are suffering from substance abuse. They can come into our police department, let us know. We have the resources to make phone calls. The person's called an angel that will come to the police department. They will sit down, get the information, and get that person the resources and the help that they need right out of our police department. Welfare check request, same thing as a house check request. If somebody hasn't seen, maybe they haven't seen their neighbor in a while, or they have a relative that lives in Clinton Township that they can't get a hold of, we can go and check on that person. Special Needs Registry, I hit on that. That is on our web page as well. It's a link. You can type in all the information. If you have somebody that lives in Clinton Township that has a special need, we would have that information if we ever got called to that residence ahead of time. And then we also have, this is newer, Macomb County Animal Control Pet Link. So at the front of our station, on the wall as you're walking on your left, there is a chip scanner. If you ever come across a dog, you can bring it right to our police station. It gives instructions. You can scan it if it has a chip, and it gives you the instructions of how to find out who that dog belongs to get it with its owner. And we can also assist with that as well. Feel free to follow us on social media. We have Instagram and Facebook. We've definitely increased our presence with social media as well, as far as that goes. But yeah, feel free to subscribe, like, whatever. Some people are more social media savvy than others. But it is a good way for us to communicate with the public, let everybody know what we're up to, what we're doing, those types of things.
So if I could jump in.
Go ahead, sir.
Big thanks for our chief and Captain Coppola. The social worker program, I just want to talk a little bit about this because I think it's an important element. Police officers are trained to do police work, right? And they're not necessarily trained to be counselors. And so this was a grant that we applied for, actually congressionally directed spending. And our federal legislators actually stepped up to bat to fight for us to get these dollars to be able to hire the social worker. And the idea there is reduce some of the recidivism rates. These guys know the houses that they have to go to over and over and over again. So if there's a situation there, there's always some underlying causes to a lot of those cases, right? And so as a result of that, if we can deal with some of those mental health issues and make the referrals to the agencies that can provide help, that then frees up our officers to be available, I think, more. And so I think that's an important point I wanted to make.
In conjunction with that, when the attorneys general of the United States sued the drug manufacturers and there was a drug settlement, we have taken our drug settlement money and a large portion of that, some of it goes to the police, some of it goes to fire, but a large portion of that is going to have follow-ups. So when they respond to a drug-related incident in a household, we then follow that up with a social worker who goes there using our drug money to pay for that person to go there, provide them information, do follow-ups with them, because these guys will show up at a house a number of times. But having someone who actually has resources and will do the follow-up frees them to do other things. So we have spent our drug money in conjunction with the police and the fire to try to not arrest so many people, but really try to get them help.
Our opioid reimbursement money.
Settlement money.
Yep, exactly. This is our biggest department. It's our busiest department. It's our most expensive department, but you can see why. The amount of training, the amount of equipment, the amount of materials that goes into keeping a community safe is tremendous. It's complicated. The amount of ordinances, the amount of law that they have to have pretty good command of to be able to do their jobs effectively, that's a huge issue. This is valuable work. This is the type of work that you can feel really good about when you come home and say, I did something great today.
How do you cater to the mental health and psychological needs of CTPD officers?
Yeah, good question. We have in-house, we have our own social worker that's in-house, which is a resource and a tool. We contract, we have an employee assistance program through CARE of Southeast Michigan. They are a great organization. Anytime, it's anonymous. If anybody's struggling or having a tough time with something, that is, it's free to them, it's anonymous, nobody knows about it. They can go and they can see and talk to them whenever they would like. We deal with a lot of critical incidences, unfortunately. And officers see horrible things. And whenever something like that happens, what that does is that triggers a critical incident debrief that we do at the police department. So every single officer that was part of that scene, CARE of Southeast Michigan comes in and they meet with all those officers, talk to them to make sure that they're processing things properly, and just to let them know that is a resource for them. So, yeah, good question.
I'll use myself as an example. Everybody remembers the goo explosion that happened. I was one of the officers that were there, and at the time, I thought everything was fine. I've seen a lot of bad things, unfortunately, in this career, but fortunately, we all kind of banded together and sat down and talked with the CARE people, and were able to, reach that cathartic state of being able to share our experiences. And I only think that it makes, wouldn't you agree, people stronger by being able to communicate some of the things we see out there. So it's a ever-increasing trend, and we're happy to embrace it.
Law enforcement's come a long way, even in our short careers, where I think when we started, you just didn't talk about it, the mental health aspect of things, and it has, it really has done a 180 as far as realizing those needs, understanding those, the importance of addressing those, getting ahead of those types of things. We can always do better, and we're always continually talking about ways that we can improve mental health resources for our officers, even for the community, for that matter. But I think it's definitely in the right direction.
All right, let's hear it for our officers. Again.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. One of the things we always close on is a few hot topics. So there's a few things I want to mention. This is a list of all of the road projects that we have on tap for 2026. It is a comprehensive list. It is a more ambitious and aggressive list than we've had in the past at least 20 years since I've been either involved at the township or involved in, from some other level, but trying to fix roads. We have a long way to go. We've made significant progress on our main roads, our subdivision streets. Here are the figures. 203 miles of subdivision streets, 121 of them are ranked Port of Failed right now. 59%. But we only make progress by engaging the residents. When we asked residents to send letters to their legislators to secure the funds that the County Department of Road needs, people stepped up, they sent those letters, and that became a catalyst for getting more money into the County Department of Roads. All of our roads are under the jurisdiction of the county, but you're gonna see roads in this area throughout the entire township happening. A lot of them are overlays. It's not gonna last as long as a full reconstruction, but the fact is, we're making improvements. And so grab a copy of this list, because I'm sure you're gonna find a project that's close to you. And quite frankly, we're trying to focus on these roads that are what we call feeder roads, a category that we actually invented and came up and kind of made up. It's not an official category, but those roads that people drive on in order to get to their neighborhood. So we produce the most amount of impact for the most amount of people within the township with the limited resources that we have.
I just wanted to add that if you go, the most question I get, other than when are you going to fix my roads, is I see the orange cones. When does it start? We have a new site, a new page on our website that lists all the projects and the approximate time they're supposed to start working on. We don't control the road contractors, but you can look on the website and actually find the road that you're interested in. Is it going to be fixed? And if it is, when does it start? When do we project it's going to be completed? That's a particularly helpful thing. I've been referring lots of folks there. So
Clinton-Township.com. Yeah. So Clinton-Township.com, and then there's a search bar. In the search bar, just type in construction or road projects, and you'll be able to find the dashboard pretty quickly. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.